Welcome to Walking with Jesus Bible Study. We're going to be in the book of Galatians, chapter 2, verse 20. I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. Yet not I, but Christ liveth in me, and the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. And I'm going to repeat that. I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. Yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. As Christ followers, as Christians, we are asked to pick up our cross daily. Not just one time. We're not just supposed to say, I accept Christ, I believe in him, and now I'm a Christian. That's all that I have to do. I just say this sinner's prayer. I just simply believe that Jesus is Jesus. I have him in my heart, and now I'm good. For all my sins are forgiven. All my past, present, and future sins are forgiven because Christ has died on the cross and has forgiven them. That is not true. That is not true. Every day we have a choice to make because God is freedom. He doesn't control you. He doesn't become his little puppet because now you've accepted Christ. Now he can mind control you and you do everything that's supposed to be done. You're still responsible for your choices. You are still responsible for your actions. So every day you wake up, you have a choice in whom you want to serve. Do you want to serve yourself in this world, or do you choose to serve God? Every day, you're responsible for your actions and your choices. And you best believe that every choice that you make has consequences. And you have to answer to those choices. How you treat yourself, how you treat others. You will face judgment for all those things. You're not simply already forgiven, so it doesn't matter what you do. You're going to be forgiven. If that was the case, then why does it tell you over 100 times that those who endure to the end shall be saved? Why does it say multiple times, way over 100 times, to keep your faith? Don't lose your faith. Why does it keep warning you that the devil is constantly after you to steal your faith from you? To do what? To make you curse God, to make you hate God, to make you lose hope. See, everybody thinks that, it's the end times, that a lot of people are going to step away from Christ. They're going to lose their hope. They're going to lose faith because of all the tribulations they're going through. You're forgetting that your whole life, your whole entire life, from the moment that you come to Christ and you have this light inside of you, and Satan, who is living in darkness, sees that light over there and knows that you belong to God because only light belongs to God, and he wants to extinguish that light. So he starts putting you through tests and trials and temptations to make you doubt yourself, to make you lose hope. See, a lot of people got it wrong. Not once saved, always saved. In fact, the only way that could be true is the fact that the only people that are going to be saved are the ones that endure to the end. So if we're not saved yet, because we haven't endured to the end because the end has not come, then we're not saved. Only when Jesus Christ comes to the clouds, or when we die and we face the day of judgment, he says, okay, you have endured to the end. You have kept the faith. Now you are saved. Then it is once saved, always saved. Because only then do you become saved. And if you're only saved then at that moment, well, you've already passed the test. It's already judgment day. So of course once saved and then it'll always be saved. But we still have this life to live. We still have choices to make. The devil is still going to come after us. If we truly and really belong to God, we're going to be constantly facing tribulation throughout our life. And so we are to die to ourselves. Just as Christ died on the cross, we are now dead to ourselves. We got to deny our flesh. We got to learn to kill off our flesh and learn to walk in our spirit, to deny ourselves. Most people just think, oh, you know, it's all about me. God is for me. He loves me just the way I am. And blah, blah, blah. These are all demonic doctrines. Thinking that you are okay. There's nothing left for you to do. You know, a lot of people, when they read this great book, and they see how in the Bible times is what we like to call it, how the people walk closely with God. How Joseph was able to see all those dreams, how Daniel was able to interpret all this and that, but you don't realize, you know, fasting is very key. It's key. In this day and age, we think that fasting is almost like a joke. We don't have to do that because, you know, there is no more sacrifice. Jesus was the one and only last sacrifice. But that's not true. We still need to kill our flesh. We still need to sacrifice our flesh to God. The reason why they were so close, because do you know in those times those people fasted 2 to 3 times every week? It draw them nearer and dearer and closer to God because they gave up themselves. Fasting not just because you want to say, hey, I'm not going to be on social media for today, or you know what, I didn't eat my breakfast, so I'm going to count that as fasting. That is not, no, it's fasting is willingly not partaking any food for the whole day. And if you read into the scriptures, it says day, and then it says night. Why would it mention day and night? Because they are important. They are important. You know, when King Saul and them said, oh, you know, we're not going to touch no food until after the sun goes down. That's a whole day. And then when it was very important, they said for 3 days and 3 nights, because the nights was included. That means nothing. You know, here in this Western church over here in America, you see so many churches that get together like once out of every 2 years or 3 years, and they'll fast for 1 day and think they're doing something. You get people on their close personal journey and walk with God, and like, you know what, I'm going to pick this day out of this year, and I'll fast for this 1 day. Not that God doesn't appreciate that, but volume. Does that speak volume? Does it seem like you're really sacrificing to God? That you're really denying yourself? I want you to sit back and think about that. Because a lot of people don't think it's important. But it is. The only reason why, and you can even, the disciples even asked Jesus, why don't we fast? John and his disciples, they fast all the time. He goes, because I am not with them. You are with me. But there will be a time when I am not with you and you'll be called to fast. Jesus is not walking among us. So we are called to fast. Sacrifice a part of ourselves. Do you know that our body is a temple? And where they take their sacrificial lambs? To the temples. And what do they burn on there? And every time you read in the scriptures when it says that God smelled the sweet aroma of the fat burning. When we don't eat, it is literally our fat burning. That sweet aroma goes to God. So now, just as Jesus himself was the sacrifice on the cross, now we can sacrifice a little bit of ourselves in appreciation and in love and in honor of what Jesus did, sacrificing himself for us to God. You know, also, It says, now I live. And now Christ lives in me. We should not fear death. Because we know, because if we believe in the Son of God, who died for us, that we will have life eternal. Because he's what? He conquered death. And now we too, believing in him as he lives in us, too shall live once we die. Because Christ who lives in me, I shall too now live when I die. That we should not be afraid. God also tells us that if we're his children, that there is nothing that we should ever be afraid of except for fear him and him only. Do not fear man. Do not fear the enemy. Do not fear death. Do not fear what somebody can do to the body. But fear the man, fear the being that can kill the soul. And only one being can kill your soul. The one that created your soul. And that is God. Each day, we have a choice. It tells us over and over again that we are to die to our flesh, conquer our flesh, cure our flesh. So not only are we to overcome our temptations, is why we go through these tests and we be tempted. Because once we've overcome that certain temptation, the devil's going to come after us with another one. And we'll be put to the test. And once we overcome that, he's got to find something new. Till there's nothing left for him to come after us. But we still need to die to our flesh. You know, the number one things that people don't even realize as Christ followers and as children of God is gluttony. We overeat all the time. This world has you believing that you have to have at least 3 meals a day. You know, if you go overseas and you talk to a lot of people, they say, man, America's the only place that you know where they do not eat because they're hungry. They just constantly eat just to be eating. And that is so true. Not only do we have the 3 meals a day, but then we snack in between. And we wonder why. And then all the food is just poison. So we're just feeding ourselves more and more chemicals. You wonder why we age so fast. You don't give your body a chance to heal. You're just putting it in out, just overloading it with this garbage and all these chemicals. But you got to remember that your body is a temple of God. What you put in and what you do to your body represents how you're treating the temple of God. Think of it as an actual building. Would you be lazy? Would you keep it unkept? Would it be dirty? When you're placing out things onto the altar, will you be placing a bunch of donuts and chips and salsa and ice cream? Or will you be picking the best fruits and vegetables knowing that it's pure? Next to holiness. Think of it as that way. How are you keeping your temple? Because it is. It's a temple of God. He rests inside of you. He lives inside of you. It's like you have a guest room and Jesus is staying in there. How are you keeping that guest room for Jesus? Is he stepping over bags and empty pizza boxes of chips and all these Debbie cakes? What are you feeding Jesus? How are you treating him? See, when we think about the cross and just being Christians, we just think that we just got to say our prayers, bless our food, thank God, be thankful, and accept him into our heart and all is good. And just remember that we have been forgiven. But there's way more to it than that. We all know we got to be born again. We all know we have to have a prayer life. We all know that we have to be in this word day to night. We all know that faith without works is dead. And that's just not talking about just going good deeds because that's going to get you in heaven. It's mean good deeds because you're obeying the word of God. Because you have faith. You have love. God is love. We're asked to be a reflection of our Father. What would Christ do? How would he treat me? How would he treat others? How does he ask us to live his life? No, Jesus, even though when he walked upon his earth, he was the Son of God. God made flesh. And even he fasted. There's even parts in the Bible where it tells you, and they said, Master, are you not hungry? Who already fed you? And of course I'm paraphrasing, and he says, I eat a food of which you do not know. He's talking about the spiritual food of God. That he doesn't rely on food alone, but he relies on God for his spiritual water, for his spiritual bread. And if he came to be servants and asked us to be servants, then who are we to think that we are better than Christ? To think that we could go through this walk and not have to fast? John the Baptist, could you imagine having his diet? Raw honey and bugs. Locusts. A lot of people want to complain about fasting and having to do without this and having to do with that, and oh my goodness. Say that self out loud and see how you sound. Picture Jesus standing there and say, "Oh Lord, but I don't want to give this up." Like, you're not worthy. Like, Christ is not worthy of our sacrifice, of us denying our flesh and be willing to, God, you know what, today you deserve, because you deserve it all. And the reason why I'm saying this, because we've got to bring it back. We've got to tell everybody the importance and the key to fasting. We just think of something that is a rare occasion. We don't even have to do. That if we do it, oh, what a great blessing, and bravo to us, and let's give ourselves a pat on the back that we found ourselves worthy, that we was able to do it once in a blue moon. Shame on us. You got to be careful who you're listening to, who's teaching you the gospel, who's telling you that these things we do no longer have to do. When Christ himself told you must do it. It speaks about it. The scriptures tell you that it's a must. I urge you to look it up. Go on Google. Typing all the scriptures that it talks about fasting and the importance of it. Let it lead you to all the verses so that you can sit there and read and you can see why it is such important. Why it's such an honor and blessing. They have the ability to do so. It draws you near and dear and closer to God.